Well, thank you all for being here for my final intern presentation. Today I'll be presenting about media at the Focus Ultrasound Foundation and specifically social media and public relations. There we go. All right, here's just a short agenda of everything that I'm going to go over today. Do a brief introduction, talk about my internship goals, the importance of social media, some of the TikTok and Instagram research that I've done in the public relations work and certificates that I've completed. And then I'll end with just some of the biggest lessons and key takeaways. So here's a little bit about me. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and I just graduated from UVA this past May with a degree in media studies and a minor in social entrepreneurship. At UVA, I was on the women's lacrosse team, and my mentors here at the foundation were Amy and Allison. So here's just my initial internship goals. Coming into this process, after graduating, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but with a media studies degree, I knew I wanted to work in media and the marketing industry. So coming in to the foundation, I really wanted to gain just some hands-on skills, keep my learning going, and grow professionally. So I was definitely able to do that, being in the office every single day. And then more specifically, I wanted to learn some social media strategy. So that was like, what does, posting on different platforms look like? What time of day should we post? How do we keep our tone of voice while posting and keeping that consistent, as well as some social media analytics? So what are the best analytics to track? Why do we track them? How do we compare them and whatnot? And then also just some public relations insight more professionally. So before we start, I just kind of wanted to talk about the importance of social media. Social media is growing so much today, and a lot of people might not see the fit for it in larger organizations or in a business setting. A lot of times when people think of social media, they think of using it for personal growth, meeting friends, stuff like that. And so a lot of people don't think about it in a professional setting. So here are three key reasons why social media is really important in a setting like this. So social media helps educate and inspire a global audience. So with social media, we are able to reach a much larger audience outside of, Charlottesville. Social media also builds credibility and attracts collaboration. So with social media, we're able to engage with other people that also might be global people, which is awesome. Saves money, so we don't have to do as many flights, but social media can help us collaborate with other foundations that might be similar to us, which can increase learning. And then lastly, social media drives engagement and, can potentially lead to fundraising. With social media, we're reaching larger audiences, so we're engaging with more people and, really creating and building relationships. All right, so I'm first going to dive into some of the TikTok content. I don't know if everyone knows this, but I worked part-time at the foundation through my last semester at UVA. And during this time, I really focused on using TikTok, establishing some challenges with TikTok. And so here is kind of the initial solution. And this video will play, and then it will probably go away, so I can come back to it once I explain it. So the initial challenge with TikTok was making social media content that is educational but still trendy. So TikTok is an app that has a ton of information. It's like the new Google these days. It ranges from entertainment to education, so you can really put any type of content on TikTok. But the key with TikTok is grabbing the audience's attention within the first 3 seconds. And I honestly think that's generous. I think it could be more like the first second and a half. With social media, people's attention spans have gone down. So it's really important to grab the audience's attention really fast. And then another challenge with TikTok that we wanted to find a solution for was repurposing content that we use on other platforms like Instagram and Twitter in order to save time and increase consistency. So I'll just go back so this video can play. But here is kind of the solution we came up with. This video is of me summarizing one of our newsletters. So we're using content that we've already made, we've already produced, and we're summarizing it And the hope with this video is that by putting my face on the screen, people are like, oh, I wonder what this girl has to say. So they might stop and think about it for a second and watch just a few seconds longer. And by having my face on the screen as well, it creates that personal connection and that personal establishment. So, it's not just some video, it's someone actually put work into this video. And so it might intrigue them to think what I have to say. So this actually ended up being pretty successful on our TikTok. And, the hope is that when people watch this 30-second, 45-second video, that they'll want to learn more and click on our profile and, maybe watch more videos or read the full new newsletter article. So here's some statistics and metrics that we gained. These specific examples are from that TikTok I actually just showed you, and then I'll show you a larger overview. But the first are the post impressions. So the post impressions are the number of times a post appeared on someone's screen. And as you can tell, there was a very large jump on that TikTok, which was great. And then what's most important is the post engagement. So this is how often someone is actually engaging with the post. So how if they're liking it, they're commenting on it, they're clicking on our profile after watching it. So this is what's really important. And this also had a large jump. It had a 4% engagement rate, and our overall average is 2.46. So that was very successful. And then just looking at the TikTok statistics from March to May, this first picture is the top 3 posts in that period, and they were all TikToks I had created. So there were TikToks about pancreatic cancer and clinical trials, as well as Parkinson's disease clinical trials. And then the bottom picture just kind of shows an overview statistic of the analytics on these posts. So you can see the increases of when we were posting those TikToks, and the numbers are increasing as well. All right, next. Switching platforms a little, Instagram is definitely what I spent most of my time on this summer here. So I focused a lot more on research instead of creating specific content, but we were able to learn a lot and provide some key takeaways that I think we can move forward with. So I first wanted to do kind of a peer comparison, and this was very difficult at first because there's not that many companies that are similar to us in size, as well as like category and their niche with their focus. So I found 2 that I think we can learn from. So here we have the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which is a very, very large foundation. They have a large following and a celebrity name, which, definitely gains attraction. And then I also compared us to the Brain Aneurysm Foundation, which is more similar to us, still larger in size, but definitely more scalable, and they're focusing on a specific topic. So the biggest takeaway with this is, as you can see, I listed the number of followers on Instagram that each of these foundation have, and then I highlighted the engagement rate at the bottom. So the key point is that followers is not as measurable of a metric compared to engagement. So you would think that the Michael J. Fox Foundation is going to have the largest engagement rate because they have the largest following, but that is not true in this case. The Michael J. Fox Foundation's engagement rate is 5.96. Compared to the Brain Aneurysms Foundation, engagement rate is 12.3, which is a really, really good engagement rate. Our engagement rate is good. It aligns in the average engagement rate. But I decided with this research that I really wanted to focus on the Brain Aneurysm Foundation, see what they were doing on their Instagram, and if there were any ways that we can maybe replicate and use our Instagram to inspire us to create our own content that can hopefully help us increase their engagement rate, because there is definitely room for a small organization and in each topic to have a very successful engagement rate. So here I've listed out a few ideas with the bullet points of ways to follow trends. And then I have a few examples that I've created that I will walk y'all through. So this first example is testimony quotes. So having patient story quotes. This is something we have done, but on the Brain Aneurysm Foundation, this is something that they post very frequently. And so here's an example from their Instagram. And then I have kind of replicated it and made one that, fits our tone and our brand image and is from our website and a true patient story. The great thing about patient stories is they really pull on people's heartstrings and definitely build credibility. When you have a patient talking very highly of the foundation, that helps credibility overall. And they're, have an emotional appeal. So they're great for people to read. The next example I have is this one's kind of more fun and creative. So posting things like facts or fiction post. So here I have an example from the Brain Aneurysm Foundation's Instagram, and then I have created one that could, potentially be on our Instagram. And what's fun about this is you could really use a wide array of topics and talk about specific things or just be more broad in general. But the main point is that you're debunking a myth and then providing the fact. So this can be fun for users to engage with, learn something new, a creative way to share information. And then the next one I have is social media, like awareness post or like world national holiday post. So this is something that I see a lot of foundations doing. There's throughout all of my research. It's very common to do this. These are things that we could post on our Instagram, and it's very transferable to a lot of other platforms. And I have two examples here. World Brand Day just passed, but National Nonprofit Day is coming up. And what I think is so great about these and posting these on social media is that it shows, what type of holidays that we really support. So it's helping our brand image, connecting it to things that we support, and, can also teach people if they don't know that we're a nonprofit and they're following us, it'll provide that information. So educational, and it connects to our brand awareness as it shows, what type of people and things that we support. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the public relations side of my internship and things that I learned here at the foundation. So coming into this internship, I really didn't know what public relations was. So I was really excited to learn more about it and experience it on a professional setting. So here, just a bullet print of some of the things that I have done. I have researched and compiled a list of potential podcast and media awards to nominate Curing with the Sound. So the hope for this is to raise more awareness, get more people listening to our podcast and connected with the foundation. I have updated communication contacts at universities, hospitals, and medical centers. So this is very important. It taught me, the importance of staying up to date and valuing those relationships that we have with other people. And then I've participated in person as well as over the computer podcast interviews and observed the behind the scenes of the way that those interviews works and they're structured, which has been really fun to see how that works. And then at the end, see the final product. And lastly, and just overall, I've gained, hands-on experience and exposure to outreach and strategy and the media and relationship building. So next, I'll just go over the 2 certificates I completed while I was here for the summer. I completed these certificates at the beginning of my internship experience, which was great because it really set me up for success, and I was able to use the tools that I learned through these certificates throughout the rest of my time here. So the first certificate I completed was a social media and marketing certificate. This taught me what brand voice was and the importance of, staying consistent with your tone and your brand image across different platforms. Taught me about the importance of engagement. When people are engaging on our posts, it's also important to respond back to them, like their comments, respond if they have questions, just so that we're not just a robot, there's actually a person behind the screen who wants to know its audience. And then social media listening is, what your brand or consumers are saying about your brand. So this is really important because it can help us alter our social media in any way that we need to based on what people are saying about our brand. And then the next one I completed was Canva for Work. So with this certificate, I learned how to use Canva more efficiently, all the new tools to help me create all those graphics that I had just previously shown you. So those were all used on Canva. And this helped me, learn how to create graphs and social media's growth. So lastly, this is just kind of the overall of everything I've learned at the foundation. This list could go on and on and on, but here's just some key points about social media, as well as things like Canva and AI, using those more efficiently, and how to research companies of similar and not so similar organizations, and what to take perspective out of those things. And yeah, what public relations really involves in a professional setting. And lastly, here are some of my key takeaways for the Focus Ultrasound Foundation, specifically with social media. I've already talked about some of these through the examples that I've shown, like the content series for Awareness Month and the 3 myths about Focus Ultrasound, but I'll touch on the few other ideas that I have. The first one is interactive stories and polls. So using Instagram stories to create polls and quizzes or open communication for our audiences is a great way to increase engagement. I think that you can use these polls to ask a simple question like, have you heard of Focus Ultrasound before? And our audiences can simply click yes or no. And that can just let us know like who our followers are, what type of content we need to be posting to engage our audience. And you could also use stories to, use the 3 myths about Focus Ultrasound or create polls along those lines. And then the next one is infographic and data-driven post. So with all the new research that we're doing, creating graphics and graphs to present these statistics can be very effective, especially in a visual way. And then lastly, using trend-driven audio. I think this one is definitely more applicable with TikTok. But a lot of times people will hear audio that grabs their attention and that'll hook them. And then they'll stay on to maybe learn about the actual content that you're talking about. So whether that's posting a trendy audio over an Instagram story or behind a TikTok video, I think that's a way to just initially track audiences to hopefully further educate them about the Focus Ultrasound information. And that's all.